The late afternoon sun, like a benevolent hand, gently spread its warmth over the downtown streets, casting a golden blanket of light and harmony. The day was serene, almost idyllic, as if the world itself had paused to revel in the beauty of the hour. Amidst the meandering, carefree crowd was Julia Tyson, a vision of pregnancy and maternal radiance. Her glow illuminated the busy streets like a beacon. Her belly, swollen with the promise of new life, was a testament to the love she shared with her husband, the legendary Mike Tyson. With a tenderness that only a mother could exude, Julia nestled a brown paper bag brimming with warm, buttery croissants against her body as she strode gracefully toward the park bench. As she settled herself comfortably onto the wooden seat, a small, involuntary gesture unfolded. Her hand gently rested on the blossoming life within her, a gesture that spoke of intimacy, love, and the promise of motherhood. Then, with a subtle yet unmistakable shift beneath her hand, a tiny foot pressed against her palm, a delicate declaration of its occupant's vitality. With a sigh of relief, Julia Tyson stretched out her weary legs, her swelling belly no doubt a testament to the rigors of pregnancy. But for that fleeting moment, she basked in the ease of the day. Reaching into her pocket for her phone, she was poised to send a message to Mike, letting him know that she was waiting patiently when the serene atmosphere was shattered by the shrill, discordant symphony of squealing tires. A chill ran through her veins, even as the warmth of the afternoon sun kissed her skin. The bakery, once a refuge of comforting scents and mouth-watering confections, was transformed into a flashpoint of conflict as the ominous police cruiser skidded to a halt. Emerging from the vehicle was Officer Ray Saunders. His imposing stature and the buzz cut atop his head only heightened the sense of menace that radiated from his cold, piercing blue eyes. Like an apex predator on the hunt, Officer Saunders surveyed the area, a growling beast on the prowl. Then, his gaze settled upon Julia, his countenance twisting into a sneer of disgust. Emboldened by years of unchecked power, Officer Saunders had grown accustomed to seeing the world through the tainted lens of bigotry and discrimination. To him, a beautiful, affluent black woman sitting solo in a neighborhood that he deemed too refined for her skin color was a blatant aberration, a dissonant note in the harmony of the community. His mind, riddled with the corruption of prejudice, immediately concluded that she was out of place, her very presence an affront to his warped sense of superiority. With the swagger of an overbearing tyrant, Officer Saunders bore down upon Julia, the ground shaking with the weight of his approaching footsteps. "Hey you," he barked, his voice a vicious weapon designed to demean and degrade. Julia, taken aback by his sudden aggression, tensed slightly, her eyes searching for a reason behind his hostility. Her hand protectively curled around her unborn child in a confused flutter of emotions. Raising her head, her eyes locked onto the towering figure of Officer Saunders. Her voice, laced with uncertainty and apprehension, wavered. "Yes?" she asked, her perplexity apparent. Officer Saunders, with palpable disdain, wasted no time in responding, his words like hammer blows against the shell of her peace. "You can't sit here. Move along." His words crackled with disdain, his demand dripping with contempt. As the air thickened with confusion and unease, Julia, her mind reeling with disbelief, frowned at Officer Saunders. "Excuse me?" she inquired, her tone reflecting the perplexity swirling within her. "I'm just waiting for my husband." Her words, dripping with befuddlement, were a plea for understanding, a desperate attempt to comprehend the irrationality of the situation. But Officer Saunders was unbowed, his gaze boring into her like icy daggers, his voice dripping with condescension. "You people are always looking for handouts," he sneered. The tendrils of anger began to twist through Julia's mind, her jaw tightening with indignation at the injustice of the situation. "Sir, I'm not loitering. I just bought something from the bakery," she declared, her words laced with fierce determination. "I have every right to sit here." Her voice, once tentative, now rang out like a battle cry, her dignity and self-respect refusing to crumble under the weight of the officer's prejudices. The faint glimmer of a sinister smile flickered across Officer Saunders' lips as the young woman's defiance stoked the embers of his resentment. "Did I just hear you talk back to me?" he snarled, his voice growing taut with malevolence. His hand twitched toward his baton, a promise of violence coiled and ready to strike. Before Julia could react, before she could plead for reason, the officer's boot shot out, a blur of black leather and sadistic intent. The sole of his boot connected with her ribs, a brutal impact that sent her crashing to the side. A scream of agony erupted from Julia's lips, piercing through the park. She toppled from the bench, her body curling instinctively around the unborn life within her. The brown paper bag, once filled with treats and promise, tumbled to the ground, spilling its sweet cargo across the sidewalk, a cruel mockery of her shattered innocence. Suddenly time itself seemed to freeze. A black SUV, its tires screeching against the pavement, slid to a halt. The driver's door flew open and out stepped Mike Tyson. His presence radiated a palpable menace that even the air itself seemed to recoil from. His gaze swept across the scene, landing first on his crumpled wife, then locking onto Officer Saunders, whose smug grin quickly faded. Before the officer could react, Mike Tyson was upon him. What followed was a brutal reckoning, a justice swift and unrelenting, meted out by the fists of a legend. Saunders, once so confident in his power, found himself at the mercy of a force far greater than he had ever imagined. And as the sirens of approaching reinforcements echoed through the city streets, the tale of what had transpired would spread, a whispered legend, a shouted anthem, a testament to a love that refused to be broken and a justice that refused to be denied.